Free transfers are a common topic of discussion in FM. You can pick up some absolute bangers at the beginning of a save for absolutely free. But consider this, you've finished that first season and things are going really well, but you're still working on a relatively tight budget. So the question is, what gems can you pick up at the start of a second season to make it a season to remember? I'm a firm believer that the second season is more important than the first one. It can often be the catalyst that takes what is a fun time and turns it into a 20-season dynasty save epic. It can also be a singular flame blown out with one breath, like a candle on a stale birthday cake. On my stream save with MTK Budapest, a gaggle of free transfers, i.e. like 6 or 7, joined us at the start of the second season and took a newly promoted side and turned them into a legit title contender. And if you want to watch that, you can of course find me live over on Twitch on Tuesdays, Thursdays and Sundays. He did it again. All this got me thinking, who are the best players that you can grab on a free transfer at the start of your second season? A tip for finding those game-changing free agents in addition to this, particularly if you're managing in a smaller league, is agent offers. They are so powerful, especially in the early game, because there's so many players swirling around. Just make sure when you come in here, you can have all of these ticked or you can adjust this to your liking, but I leave this on for usually the first 4 or 5 seasons, especially of my saves, and then tweak it afterwards to get rid of certain stuff. But especially unattached is what you really want to look for. And no matter how many players, of course, are out of contract at the end of that first season, a lot of them will sign extensions, so I've done my best to mitigate this, and I've actually run the scenarios through multiple times. So as I talk about the players, I'll be giving you an idea based on a percentage of how often these players will be coming available. Obviously just based on my tests, but still, it should be a rough guide that you can use. At the very end, I've also included some players that only occurred as free agents once or twice throughout my test. So without any more beating around the bush, let's get into the best free transfers for the start of your second season. First up is 27-year-old Jonathan Bamba, released by Lille. He's basically as good as he's ever gonna be, with blistering pace that can either be put to use on the left-hand side as an inside forward / inverted winger, given that he has that lovely finishing and composure, but also on the right as an out-and-out winger, given that he has that lovely 13 crossing, and the 16 and 16 on acceleration and pace is delightful. He does only show up 60% of the time in my test, so he's slightly on the rarer side for some of the players we're going to be looking at, but still very much one of the better options. He can be picked up for as little as £42,000 a week, probably a lot less, especially given that he has no caps for France. The wage estimates that I'm trying to give could fluctuate wildly as well, and will most likely actually be lower than the lowest end that I'm giving you now, because I'm doing this test with Manchester City. Often players will just demand more money from them anyway, and you might be able to get them much cheaper with your save. So take those with a pinch of salt, just use it as a guideline. Next, we have Denis Suarez. At 29 years old, he is slightly on the older side of this, but with that comes experience and some rather delicious mentals. He can be used extremely effectively in the attacking midfield slot, especially as an advanced playmaker, down to his wonderful passing, fantastic teamwork and vision to go on top of that. He can even do a job on the left side as an inside forward or an inverted winger, but down to his lack of pace, it's not entirely ideal, and I suspect that as his career progresses, he may find himself dropping back into a more central midfield advanced playmaking role. The good news though is that he was available as a free agent in 90% of my tests, so your chances of picking him up are extremely good. His agent also seems to be quite a willing negotiator, and you'll probably be able to nab him for under 50k a week. Honestly, probably a lot less if you're not managing Manchester City. Marcus Thuram, at only 25 years old, could literally be the perfect addition to your squad after his release by Borussia Mönchengladbach. Very capable as an inside forward on the left, though given his strength on both feet, training him on the right-hand side for that same role could be very effective. He also possesses that extremely rare combination of rapid pace, in this case 17, and a dominant aerial threat due to his 15 jumping reach and 6'4" stature. In even better news, much like Denis Suarez was, he was available in 90% of my tests. And despite all that, he can still be picked up for probably less, but around £57,000 a week. You're going to want to get in there quickly, because everyone and their mum is interested in him. Though I am curious to know your favourite second season free transfers of FM23 as well. I imagine some of them would have slipped through the cracks of this due to never reaching the point of actually being physically released by their clubs, because they signed for new sides while they're still in contract at the old club. So let me know. Dani Ceballos, the only player that showed up as a free agent in 100% of my tests, and what an opportunity his release by Real Madrid is for you. An excellent midfield playmaker with sublime passing and first touch, and a couple of lovely player traits to really suit his style. He's also not afraid to run with the ball, and nor should he be, given his 16 dribbling. Still only 26 years old, he is amongst the highest of quality that you can pick up at the start of a second season, and incredibly, only for £32,000 a week for the right club. There's a bargain here. Some other players may have fallen through the cracks, as they potentially are the type you may have to pick up while they are still in contract, but have less than 6 months to go. This mainly focuses on players players that actually will let their contracts completely elapse and become free agents. Emanuele Valeri, the extremely talented left-sided player, is released by Cremonese 80% of the time in my test, and you'd be silly not to want to add him to your squad. He has all the temp poles of a terrific wingback, from his pace, his terrific crossing and dribbling. He even has a cheeky 14 tackling, so he can actually be an asset for you at the back rather than just a threat going forward. He has the very useful driven personality, even possesses 14 long shots for the occasional banger, and a lovely trait to match. Much like Dani Ceballos, he could be brought in for as little as 32k, probably less, and could definitely last up to a decade in your squad. Now, we're going to switch gears a little bit and take a look at some younger players. While some of these could still have an impact in your squad right now, these are very much players for the future. Christian Mosquera, the 19-year-old Spanish centre-back, is by far the cream of the crop here and is going to be wanted by just about everybody. He's 6'3" with solid jumping reach, and given his age, has plenty of time and room to improve. His centre-back temp poles of heading, marking and tackling are all intact, as well as some rather nice mentors for someone who's only 19. The best news is that he was available in 80% of my tests, and moreover than that, 5k would nab you him. 5k. Diego Moreira, another absolutely fabulous signing in waiting, showing up 90% of the time. He's only 18 and has very nice attributes for his age, and still plenty of room to grow. I've seen him sign for PSG on multiple saves, and he's versatile enough to play on both sides and even potentially through the middle should you need it. I was even able to approach him myself on my MTK save to give you an idea of the types of clubs that he's willing to speak to. He joined PSG in the end, of course. Yep, I'm not bitter. Not bitter at all. He'll want around 7k a week if you're one of the larger sides, but I was negotiating around 3,000 with him before the giant French behemoth came and swooped him away from me. Next we have Pablo Ramon. At 22, he is slightly older than some of the players on this category, but he's still a very, very solid top flight player. His real selling point is his ability to either play as a wingback or provide cover as a centre-back, though given his 11 jumping reach and only 6-foot stature, that could definitely be a weakness. But being adept on both feet is a very nice bonus here. He is a little on the pricier side due to his age, sometimes wanting as much as £20,000 a week, but he did show up 80% of the time, so you'll probably find him. Next, we have Breno Biden. He's completely released by Corinthians 70% of the time, and the 18-year-old is definitely one for the future. He's usually wanted by a raft of Premier League sides, but fear not, as on my other save, which is what you're now seeing here, he was picked up by Ferencváros at the start of a second season, and as you'll notice from his wage, only on £1,000 per week, so is very much within reach of much smaller sides, and given the way that AI clubs negotiate wages, I suspect you could get him even cheaper. What you're really buying with him is his huge potential ceiling. Last of the younger player pickups, before we take a look at some of the rarer gems, is Oscar Aranda, another releasee of the Real Madrid youth system. He's just a pure, solid option with bags of potential. He just needs a bit of nurturing and the right amount of game time in a good league to show you what he can do. He's available 80% of the time in my tests for less than £10,000 a week, and he could be exactly what you need. So lastly, I promised to show you a few of the rarer gems, those players that didn't show up quite as often. However, given that I know for a fact they all have 1 year left on their contract, they should still all be available for you to potentially sign when there are 6 months to go, so you may be able to get in there before they actually become free agents, and maybe they're all able to be picked up as well. This could be the best part. You could snag yourself a mythical Pokemon. This has all gone a bit wrong here. First, we have Adrian Rabiot showing up as a free agent 20% of the time. He is wanted by Barcelona, but I don't think I need to explain to you why he'd be a particularly good signing. Former Italian international Andrea Bellotti was released in 20% of my tests, often gets picked up by Premier League sides, and there's still a lot of quality here. He's only 29. Outrageous 18-year-old German centre-back Tarek Buchmann also was released in 30% of my tests, and you can see here he's actually under a bid from Offenbach, and he is a genuinely excellent player, and picking him up would be a bargain. Charlie Webster was also released by Chelsea 20% of the time. He may not look fantastic here, but he's certainly worth a pickup if you're managing outside of probably the top 2 leagues in England with that potential that he has. A very rare sighting for me is Wilfried Singo. He was only released once in my tests by Torino, but look at the state of his attributes at only 22 years old. You'd be mad not to try and pick this guy up. And lastly, bit of a strange one, did actually show up 40% of the time. Tim Ottlinger has some really good temp poles as a centre-back, not fantastic on the physicals, but he does have remarkably high potential for someone who looks like this. So, you know, with the right nurturing, anything's possible, right? So hopefully some of these will be able to help you in your journey in the second season of your save. If you've enjoyed the video, drop it a like. If you're new to the channel, subscribe, and happy free agents in the second seasoning. Seasoning? Seasoning. I'll see you soon.